Hi, it's Juliet here, and just checking in with you, saying hi to you, and just wanted to share something with you. I had a eureka moment this morning. Here I am sitting in my lovely garden in France, which has given me loads of time just to relax and enjoy and self-nourish, as well as doing the inevitable work, because I am a bit of a workaholic, but that's part of my eureka moment. So I've been listening to Gabor Mate, and I'm sure lots of you went to see him in Dublin, and I've posted some of his videos. And Gabor tells us that what happens in childhood really deeply affects us. So issues of attachment and attunement, that's just a little car going past, are very important to us in terms of how we may then develop as adults and whether we suffer some kind of developmental trauma. In the video I posted last night, he was talking about how research has shown that women that suffer from breast cancer are way more likely to suffer if they have a high level of stress and if they are alone, that they've got no one to share with. If they just are alone, then there's not such a high rate of breast cancer, but if they are alone and they're stressed, the fact of not having someone to share with about their stress, then the likelihood is that you're far more likely to suffer. And these patterns of relationship and aloneness, stress, are very much laid down in our childhood around the times of our attachment. And so that's a little bit of the background. I might have shared before that I had big issues as a child, coming from a post-war family, and there were issues for me around not being able to grow up with my mother or any close relatives. So I definitely suffered some kind of attachment damage, which I've talked about in an earlier video about losing children and difficulties for me with that. And it's about how when we have an unresolved trauma in our nervous system, it can be buried so deeply that we don't even know. We can hold the consciousness like, oh, I had a happy childhood, everything was fine for me, because we have to adopt survival strategies. We have to numb out to those parts of our childhood where it was really unsafe for us, and because the pain is too great. But then those survival strategies later on, they don't serve us anymore. And it's when we begin to see the patterns of the survival strategies that aren't serving us, then we can begin to heal them and change them. So I spotted a survival strategy today. So I think one of the ways that I try to suppress my pain alongside having the survival strategy is to be a bit of a workaholic. I can relate to Gabor Mate in that respect, because when you're busy, then it's very easy not to feel anything because you're just focusing on your busyness. So I had a real push-pull moment, like there was some mowing I was doing. Shall I continue with the mowing? I'm quite tired now, but if I could finish it, that would be great. Well, I took some time to sit down and to relax for a moment before I finished everything off, and I thought about it, and I had this inner battle like, yeah, I've got to go on and finish that mowing, because I'm like a really stickler to get to the end of things. And then like, hang on a minute, but maybe you shouldn't do that. Maybe you should just let it go now because you're going to make yourself too tired. So paying attention to health, self-care is really important. And then I won out in the battle, and instead of going and starting the mower up, I just went and got it and put it away. And then I went back and sat down again and thought some more. And then I went into the house and had a nice shower. And then as I was having my shower, I suddenly had this thought come into my mind, as my mind was racing about this and that, and the thought was, if I don't do everything I can to make people happy, they're not going to stick around. And that was like really pivotal. So the original pattern is like from my childhood, where I was passed from person to person. Like I had to do something that would mean that I was taken care of and that I wasn't homeless. I wasn't passed on to the next person. So that was the original pattern. But then in order not to feel the pain of that, then I would like work really hard to make it all right for other people, or I would work really hard in my life so as not to feel the pain. And you know, this stuff is buried so deep, and it's only when we can give ourselves time. But if you're a workaholic, then where do you find the time? And then that carries on into the next generation, into our children and their children. The research I've been looking at, it's about how trauma can pass down 3 generations. Because our genetics change, that certain capacity that we have to tolerate stress changes. And I think if we want to have a planet free from trauma, then we've got to say, okay, this is where it ends. It stops with me. I have to find a way to begin to heal this. And so when you identify your pattern, then what do you do with it? I mean, the identification is great. That's a step forward, and to be able to share it with somebody is helpful. But there is also a necessity to go into your body, to be able to feel in the body where you're holding that pattern. And what I identified was that when I started to listen to how I was holding the pattern, as I noticed that my heart rate was very elevated. And also I've been paying attention the last few days and noticing that when I'm about to leave somebody who I'm very close to, that I get almost like a panic attack. I get very tight in the heart, and it feels really, really scary. And it can, this is the nature of trauma, it can come on so quickly. These activations can completely overwhelm us. And we then tend to identify them with what is happening in this current moment and think that it's about this current moment. But this obviously, you know, I've picked, like a detective, these little pieces along the line of how far it goes back in my life. That, yeah, sure, there are things right now triggering me, but the root of it is way, way back in my pre-verbal childhood. And not only pre-verbal, but a good dose of neurotransmitters flood in my body as well that numbs me out from that. So I do ask you to pay attention and do some explorations and make it safe for yourself. Have some support, make it safe, and then do something to turn those patterns around. So my turning of this pattern around is not that I have to do something to make people happy so that they don't leave me, so that I'm won't be on my own. It's about what can I do myself to make myself happy. And then I start noticing actually I'm doing some lovely things around me, and that I've gradually been on this track for a number of years. And as I look around and see the things I've created for myself, I see more and more things that I've actually done, including being in this lovely garden and taking time out for myself and enjoying myself. So I just, when I say resource yourself, it's so important not just to have a rest, but to be given the space, to give yourself the space to be able to reflect on things, but also to give yourself the space for your nervous system to calm, and to begin to nourish and nurture yourself in those places where you weren't as a child. So I hope that's helpful to you, and so I look forward to hearing any comments or any questions that this video might have brought up for you, and look forward to speaking to you again. So lots of love to you, and bye for now. Bye.